Hey guys, happy Monday. Before we jump into the show today, where Painter Sharpless of ESPN 1067 will join me, I really want to urge you guys to head to auburnpodcast.com, click on Become a Patron, and really help the show out. As football season gets closer, it's going to be a lot more work for me, and I want to put together a solid product, and to be honest, I'm going to anyway, but it'll make it a lot easier to justify to the wife in the evenings that I'm spending all this time, if we have a little bit more coming in. So I'd really appreciate it, whether it's $1, $5, and some of you have been gracious enough to give up to $30 or $35 a month, and thank you so much for that. Also, head to shadyrays.com, use promo code Auburn to get one pair of shades free, buy one, get one, and of course that will really help out the show as well. Also, in the show notes, buy your Auburn gear from Fanatics. It's all online, free shipping. Just click on the link at the top of the show notes, however you're listening to the podcast. Thanks, guys. Let's jump into it. This is the Auburn Podcast, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast, brought to you by Auburn Undercover, as well as ESPN 1067. Zac Blackerby here with you. Painter Sharpless will join me literally any moment. We did it, guys. It is game week. The Auburn Tigers play football this week, obviously against Washington. And, so we're going to treat this like a normal game week. I say that. Normally, Monday and Tuesday show will kind of recap what happened. And then starting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we will preview what's going on this week. So there's really nothing that happened last week. So we're going to still talk about Washington. But it's a lot closer to what a normal game week will look like. Malzahn talking to the media tomorrow. So lots of good things coming up. Lots of excitement. And Auburn's matchup against Washington is starting to garner a little bit more and more national attention. I mean, it is the matchup, week one, between the Tigers and the Huskies. Hey, Washington head coach Chris Peterson had an interesting quote. Here's what he said. Quote, "I think that the quality of team we're playing is certainly like those teams we played there. I look at Auburn on defense, and it seems very Alabama-ish to me. Is that physical style, that really athletic, they don't give you anything. They've got to earn everything. They're fast, all those things. That seems really, really similar." So I think it's interesting that a very, very accomplished coach, I say accomplished, I mean, he's not, knocking down championships or anything. But my question to you, Painter, Chris Peterson calling Auburn's defense, quote, Alabama-ish. I think it's a compliment is the way he meant it. Mm-hmm. But I think some Auburn fans, it may rub the wrong way. I think it's interesting that Auburn fans are rubbed the wrong way because they do so much comparison, I think, and rightfully so, because right now Alabama is the benchmark in college football. But that goes back farther than Nick Saban's success at Auburn. I mean, really, I think Auburn fans, whether or not they like to agree with it, there's a little bit of a little brother mentality involved with some fans. And so, they get something that I think is praise. Chris Peterson simply saying, look, this is a stifling defense. It's deep. It's talented. There's a lot of youth and experience. All of those things are positives. Yeah, I mean, I think over the past 5 years, whenever you looked at Alabama's defense, really Alabama's team as a whole, but specifically their defense, I think some of it, their offense was made just by being more talented or the defense setting them up. I mean, I think Nick Saban's program is where it is today because of their defense. And for a prominent head coach in college football to say, when looking at Auburn's defense, it looks like Alabama's, and you look at Alabama's defense and what they did against Washington in that semifinal game. I mean, John Ross was limited. Jake Browning got hit time and time again. I think 5 sacks in that game. So you look at it, and if Auburn's defense is truly, quote, Alabama-ish, Auburn wins this game on Saturday. Is that the way you're going at this point, Zach? Have you been able to make that decision? Because, and I don't want to get too far away from Chris Peterson's comments. Sure. It seems like the more we talk, the more you're able to buy into the theory that Auburn's roster is simply better and
I think the team is aware that they're being challenged and that Auburn, not just under Gus Malzahn, but really dating back a number of years, has struggled in marquee matchups to start the season.
Right. That is the way I'm going. I think Auburn wins this game. Auburn will be my official pick later in the week. You look at it, and let's see. Auburn's a 2.5-point favorite right now, according to OddsShark, and I think that's about right. But when you say that, and it's like, all right, Auburn's going to win by 2.5, I think if it's close, I think it could go either way. But if you told me that one of these teams is going to win by 3 scores, it's Auburn.
Yeah, I think the roster talent, as we've talked about more than once, favors Auburn, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think just matchups in general. I think both defensive lines will be better than the opposing offensive lines. So then you look at it, it's like, all right, well, I think Stidham's a better quarterback than Browning. But when you look at the metrics, a lot of those metrics tie in experience to be so valuable. So really, I think the metrics are a little skewed because Browning has been playing since we were like in 8th grade, right?
Yeah, well, this is his, 4th year now?
It feels like so much more than that. But yeah, no, you're right. And props to him to be able to start at a solid program as a freshman, but I don't think he's an elite college quarterback.
Yeah, and you're not the only one that's voiced that concern. And on top of that, it is curious to me right now who is going to be their playmaker. Now, Chris Peterson does an excellent job recruiting, but
outside of Gaskin.
Yeah, outside of Gaskin, they don't have a proven deep threat. Their probably best option, their tight end, is out. And so while there's definitely an ability for someone or multiple guys to assert themselves, they don't have a guy. And I think Auburn not only has the more talented quarterback, but they have more playmakers. So that also plays to Auburn's favor.
Do you think it could possibly hurt Auburn, the fact that they're going into this not knowing who the guy is that they need to defend the most? Because I think if they come in with the tight end's their most, experienced pass catcher, it's like, all right, we'll just put a safety on him, let Jeremiah Denton track him, essentially. Or put Jamel Dean on him and size on size and bump him and rough him up at the line of scrimmage. If you take him out, then it's like, okay, then nothing else is there. Could it possibly hurt Auburn, the fact that they're going in like, we don't know who's going to beat us?
I do think that they're going to have to make adjustments. Kevin Steele admitted that much last week, and that's not just when you don't have as many proven playmakers, but the opening game, you're basing a lot of what you're doing defensively on what a team did the previous season or years before. They have a new offensive coordinator on top of that.
Yep.
So there's definitely going to be some tweaks, and I think that will play to Washington's advantage early. But in the grand scheme of things, not having a proven playmaker, I think I'd rather have one than not, even though, again, there are some opportunities, I feel, for Washington to exploit the unknown.
I just think, I've said this throughout the offseason, but if Auburn can stop Myles Gaskin, I don't think Jake Browning can beat the defense.
I'm with you. I don't think he's a good enough quarterback. Even if he had someone like John Ross, I think that Auburn has enough defensively to slow them. And so you're right. Making this team one-dimensional didn't matter who it was last year. Georgia, Alabama. Even defensively, I think Auburn did a nice job against Clemson. They only scored 14 points.
Right.
So, yeah, it appears to me that there is not enough firepower on Washington's team if they become one-dimensional to beat an Auburn defense. And we saw that against 2 teams in the national championship last year.
Yeah, so the line's 2.5 to 3.5, depending on where you're shopping at. That's a field goal, right?
Yeah.
What do you think Anders Carlson's, I messed up saying his name, Anders Carlson's role in this? What kind of impact will he have in this game?
That is a great question, and I'm stalling. But I think that the main thing he can do is simply go out and try to be perfect and not think about what I think you're kind of getting to is what if he has to go in his opening game in a nationally televised situation, 2 top 10 teams, make some kind of game-winning kick.
What if Daniel Carlson never had a game-winning kick
and
at Auburn?
He started his career that way.
What if Anders came in, little brother came in, and did what Big Brother did not do despite breaking several records? What if Anders came in and did it his first game against a top 10 opponent?
I'm sure that the coaches will say, hey, you've just got to take it. I guess you can't say one play at a time, so one kick at a time. But yeah, it would be a fascinating way to start off his career, and it could happen. I think you and I both feel that this will be a close game. I'm with you in that.
I think it's 2 scores now.
Wow.
Now, the game itself may be close, and Auburn may do something late.
But they might run away with it there.
run away with it as in, get a field goal to, go up 10 or something, in the fourth quarter. I mean, I think it's going to be a very physical game, but just looking at Washington's offense and, they've got a new offensive coordinator, and I think you could argue that will help Auburn. Or
Bush Hamdan,
that's right, and was with the Falcons last year. Was on staff at Arkansas State when they came to Auburn in 2013. That's really the only kind of
tie
between the two coaching staffs. But to my understanding, he was not there when Malzahn was there. So
that is a good point about Carlson, though. With a game likely. I mean, like you say, it's not going to be a blowout almost certainly.
Right.
And if it does, I think it favors Auburn. But, man, that would be a crazy way to start his career. Like one of the few things his brother really never had. Mm-hmm. And you top it.
And I think Daniel would be so stoked for his little brother.
The way he talks about him.
Did you see Daniel missed a field goal
in
the preseason?
I hadn't seen that. The one I've seen him nailing 57-yarders and or things of that nature.
Right, and he won the job, obviously. But, it just kind of looks weird.
It is weird. And he's in a good situation, too, because they got the dome, which is a benefit, obviously.
Right. And maybe that's why Anders is going to nail a 60-yarder to win the game on Saturday, because it's inside.
That would be wild.
I mean, it would be the most, I don't know. That'd be the best way to follow your big brother. Wouldn't it?
I feel like in some ways it'd be awesome, but how many kickers have this kind of pressure on them when they come in? It's kind of a weird situation for the kicker to be it's like, well, it's his little brother and he did all these things and his little brother or his older brother said the little bro's even better than he is. So, it's just, I haven't seen many kickers enter a college football career with this much hype.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
I think it'd be awesome, though.
But it would be fun. And
the stories would write themselves.
Yes. You are right. So the other thing
Sean Shivers should kick the game-winning field goal because he can do everything.
He's going to be that. He's going to be.
He's not even going to play this year. I would be so sad.
They've talked about him like he is. You're right, though. Maybe it's just been one big tease. I think he's got a role, man, and I think you know that too.
How many touches does he get this year? Does he get more than 20? Because I don't think he does.
I think you're right about that. But surely, in special teams, though, right?
Maybe
not.
I don't know.
We'll see. Yeah, and here's the thing with the Auburn-Washington game. I'm with you. I so badly want to lean towards Auburn because I just can't. All off season, I felt like Washington will come. And I still agree with you that, which is where I'm kind of confused even in my own head because I'm like, I think Auburn's more talented.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt in the opener.
Right. It's just because of Gus.
I don't even know.
Is Peterson a better coach than Gus? Because who would you rather have? If you were starting a program and you just got hired to be AD and you could pick one of them to lead your football team.
To be fair to Gus, he has won a national title as an assistant.
Right.
He has been to one as a head coach.
Sure.
Two things Chris Peterson has not even attempted. Now, he did get into a playoff situation with Washington, and obviously he hasn't had the same, I think, set of circumstances. When he was at Boise, every year they were playing kind of on the outside looking in, let's be honest.
Sure.
And so the way things are going for Auburn right now kind of makes me want to say Gus because I really do feel as if he has set this Auburn program up for success over the next few years if Auburn fans can just not freak out in the event that not everything goes perfect one year and just pull the trigger and want to fire him. Mm-hmm. But Chris Peterson's the last 10 years from Boise to Washington have been so consistent. It's hard for me not to pick a guy like that.
The way Peterson has coached up his guys, I mean, these 3-star guys that become first-round draft picks, I mean, that's impressive. Mm-hmm. It's like, what do you value more, development or recruiting? Because Gus has brought in better guys. And I think when you look at both of these teams, Auburn has a better roster. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, what do you look for? And, some of the Malzahn skeptics are saying it's like, well, it's because he's finally got a quarterback, which is fair. But you look at the trajectory of the position, Gus is going to have a quarterback for a long time, assuming, everything kind of goes right. And there's even backup plans, even if it doesn't go right.
Agreed. Yeah, it does kind of depend on. I think the one thing I would say about Peterson is I value the general consistency with which his teams have played. Yeah. There has not been as much ebb and flow.
Right.
But I do think in some ways Gus is probably doing it in a more difficult environment and a part of the country where football is more competitive and it's more of an arms race. And I'm sure that people from the Pac-12 would hate to hear me say that because they're saying, well, that's that West Coast bias we're always dealing with. Mm-hmm. But I guess
it's a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, I still think no matter what, there's not a league deeper than the SEC, even though the Big Ten is giving the league a run for its money.
I mean, just when you look at the West Coast, obviously Washington deserves to be in the conversation now. USC will always have a chance just because, all of their assets and what they have access to.
But we think this is a rebuilding year, I believe.
Right. Like, I think Oregon, now that Chip Kelly's not there anymore, I don't think Oregon has a chance to be a consistently great program. Now, their quarterback they've got a chance to do something. And then UCLA now, because Chip Kelly is there, and I think Chip Kelly's a great coach. And then Stanford. Like, I think that's really kind of it out west. Then you look at the East Coast and the SEC and the Big Ten. Really everywhere else, it's like school after school that offers a lot from their football program standpoint. So, I think we're in agreement there. So, but yeah, I thought it was interesting that Peterson said Auburn's defense was, quote, Alabama-ish.
And it's funny that it rubs Auburn fans the wrong way.
Yeah, because it's totally a compliment.
Absolutely.
He meant that in the most, giving them the highest praise that he could think of, And we've talked about it over the course of the offseason. Both I've had the conversation with you and several other folks, but Auburn is closer to what Alabama has fielded the past few years. They're closer now than they ever have been. As far as if someone were to go down, I think Auburn would have somebody ready to take their spot just because they've recruited at that level. And once again, I know there's Malzahn critics and skeptics that are listening to this show, and that's fine. Every fan base needs some of those. But I think Malzahn has done a much better job developing talent.
Right, and everyone's going to probably harken back to what you just mentioned a moment ago with the quarterback spot. But it does seem like at this point, between the guys that are playing behind Jarrett Stidham and the one you're bringing in with Bo Nix, somebody there can be developed into a talent. So I'm with you, and I do believe that he has set the program up in a good place.
Have you seen any of I'm putting the Auburn podcast on YouTube now.
Oh, yes.
Have you seen that?
I have.
Getting a couple little extra bump and downloads.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
People need to check it out.
Yes. Yeah. People subscribing to it there as well. So
like that.
So if for some reason, having it up on YouTube in the background while you're working or something, that is an easy way to do it. You could do the same thing with SoundCloud on your lap or on your computer, but
I messed up your YouTube pretty badly.
Yeah, which is fine. It was all like football and video games as far as suggested stuff, and now it's all this music, but it's fine.
And the Joe Rogan podcast.
What was the highlight of your weekend, Painter?
The highlight of my weekend, I think I spent a little time with the family. That was nice on Saturday, and it wasn't anything crazy, to be honest. We were mainly just...
Ask me mine. Ask me my highlight.
It was going to the pool? What was your highlight?
I got into the top 7% of all Madden players.
Oh, okay. I should have known that.
Yep.
We talked about that. That is cool. It's a lot of people are playing Madden, Zach. That's pretty, actually impressive.
I told Leah that, my wife, and she was like, yeah, because you're in there all the time.
Hey, he's putting in the time. That's important. Well, that is cool. I wonder how many people are playing Madden right now.
Oh, millions.
Right?
Right? Yeah, it has to be.
I think.
Especially now, this is probably the prime time to play it.
Football season's about to gear it up.
Right.
The new game is out.
And you are listening to someone who's in the top 7%.
That's all. Well, let's end it.
All right. Painter plug.
All righty. ESPN 106.7.
I turned your mic off. Do it again.
ESPN 106.7 from 11 to 1. Catch the lunch break. And, of course, you can get that on ESPNAU.com, the ESPN 106.7 app. And you can listen to that on your Alexa-enabled smart speaker. So take the Midday Auburn Sports Show with you wherever you want. And also check me out on Twitter at Painter Sharpless. Thank you, Zach.
Hey, thank you, bud. Happy Monday to you. And once again, as I urged you at the start of the show, please check out auburnpodcast.com. Click on Become a Patron and support the show. It would mean a ton, and I'd really appreciate it. Once again, auburnpodcast.com. Click on Become a Patron. It can be as $1, $5, whatever you wish to give to support the show. You get extra shows and eventually merch once I get to that point. So please do that. This has been another edition of the Auburn Podcast.